This is Cry of the Bald, Sword of the Dead, Book 5, written by Morgan Rice, read by Liam. Chapter 1. As the gates of Dastara swung slowly open, revealing the army besieging the city, King Aldous of Lytos hoped that he was doing the right thing. He'd asked himself that question so many times in the hours leading up to this. The truth was that he didn't know if it was right, but it was the only choice now. His only chance to save the people of his city. Aldous sat atop his warhorse, dressed in armor worked with the runes of the small magic, carrying the sword that had served him so well in battle before. He should have looked every inch the warrior king, but he suspected that it wasn't enough. He tried not to show any signs of pain as he rode, from the injuries sustained weeks back now when he'd been crushed by a falling tree. On foot, those injuries made his sword more of a crutch than a weapon. But on horseback, perhaps Aldous could still be the warrior he had been. What would his people see as they stood there? There were enough of them watching the army as it prepared to ride out. He was still tall and powerfully built, even if his once golden hair was laced with grey, his beard tangled, his face worn with more than 40 years of caring for his people. He hoped that his people would remember this moment, when Aldous rode at the head of his army, ready to make one last stand against the barbarians who threatened the city. He tried not to shiver in the cold that had come upon his kingdom under shadow-filled skies, sent by the king of the kingdom beneath, Xander. He led that army through the gates, his horse's hooves tracking through the snow beyond. The army of the Janden lay ahead. The only options today were to fight and win, or to die. The part that worried Aldous was that most likely he and his army would simply die. Even then, though, there was a chance that they might save the city. Tak, the leader of the Janden, had promised that he would spare the people of Dastara if Aldous rode out to face his forces in open battle. Tak's Janden were weary and starving. He wanted a swift end to the siege, and didn't want to throw them at the walls of the city to die. Not that it was just the Janden Aldous and his soldiers were facing. Mercenaries from the city-states of the south were camped beside them. So were rebellious nobles of Lytos. Both had been brought there by the wiles of Lord Antonio, who had plotted to overthrow Aldous and take the throne from the start of all of this. Which reminded him, there was still one thing Aldous needed to do before the battle could begin. "Bring him," Aldous said. A pair of his guards dragged a struggling figure forward in chains. He was slender, with chestnut hair and calculating eyes that watched everything closely. His clothes had once been fine, but were now dirty and torn. Weeks of being in a dungeon would do that to a man. Lord Antonio glared up at Aldous with undisguised hatred. Aldous was grateful for that. It made a change after so many years of Antonio plotting behind his back.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?